Welcome to Dance Specific Talks. This podcast is made for us dancers, and our goal here is to inspire dancers from all over the world to become better, both on and off the dance floor. We want to provide you with a platform where we dancers can share and learn from each other. So let me introduce to you your host for this podcast, Teaser, and remember as always, by dancers, for dancers.
What's up everyone, and welcome back to another episode of your favorite dance podcast, Dance Specific Talks, hosted by Be Fit and Sensual. And I am Teaser, your host. Today we are traveling all the way to Kingston, Jamaica, as we are meeting the dancehall professor himself, Orville from Theatre Xpressionz. So what do you need to know about Orville? He is the founder of Dance Xpressionz, one of the biggest crews in Kingston, Jamaica, dedicated to dancehall. He's also the artistic leader of Theatre Xpressionz, who currently are releasing now a series on YouTube called The Bartender. Orville has been around for many years, and his father used to also do dancehall, as well as his son Saskia, who's also doing dancehall. We can't wait to get into this episode, as this is one of the unique opportunities to get to know more about dancehall culture, already back from the 80s and forward. So put in your headphones and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share our pages on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. You can find us everywhere on Dance Specific Talks. And now, let's get it going. Welcome to this interview, legendary Orville, aka Mr. Professor, the Professor of Dancehall. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. Enough respect.
You know, this has been a dream come true to be able to talk with someone who's been so long in the game. Are you right now located in Kingston, or where are you in the world right now?
Oh yeah, I'm in Kingston. I'm home in Kingston.
Cool. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't really know where to start, because you have such a long resume of years of dancing and promoting dancehall culture to the world. But I kind of want to take it back to where it all started. How did you start with your passion for dancing? Where did it come from in your life?
Dance chose me. I didn't choose dance. Dance chose me. It's a calling. It's a gift that I decided that I would not allow to go by the wayside, because it did so much for my soul, for my spirit. I grew up as a child that was I had very low self-esteem. The only time I was able to express myself fully was when I danced. So that was from a very tender age. I realized that I was able to express what I was going through movements. And my oldest brother, who now lives in New York, made me enter my first dance competition when I was 7 years old. And I won a bottle of soda. And that was what prompted me to be able to move forward as a dancer and realize that this is my passion and this is my joy. This is what brings me peace of mind.
You know, a lot of people who may never been to Kingston maybe have a hard time picturing the different areas. What area did you grow up in, and like how did it shape you as a person?
Okay, I grew up in the Mullines Road area, and this is what you'd almost call almost in the heart of Kingston. The downtown Kingston area is actually the heart of Kingston. We're almost closer to heading to the St. Catharines side of Jamaica, where we're located in Kingston. And my parents came to this area that I now reside. They came here in 1962. That's the year when Jamaica got independence. And my father was the first person that brought a dancehall session into this community. They were responsible for a number of things in this community. They cut the first tracks that people would walk into, because it was almost like a forest. So they cut the first tracks. They were responsible for bringing electricity. They were responsible for bringing running water into this community. So this is where we are from. And I tell people all the while that my surname is Hall for a reason, because I'm so much a part of dancehall. So my whole history, this is what kept the community together. The dancehall parties that my father would keep here at this residence. So we have all the history in the world right here, in the dancehall world. It's nestled right here in Jacksontown. The community is called Jacksontown.
Wow, that's beautiful. And now you brought the third generation of your family. Saskia is also dancing. Your son is also dancing. So you have 3 generations passing on the legacy. That's amazing. Yes. Wow. Yes. You know, I've been very inspired lately about Bob Marley's grandson, Skip Marley, and like how the generation kind of root down and spread the cultures and new ways and new allies. So I think it's very
Yes.
interesting to see that you have like so many generations of dancehall in your family.
Yes, it's important to educate and empower them of the strength of the culture itself, so they can pass it on with the same kind of energy, and passion. That's one of the things that's lacking in dance. I don't think we are trying to find that medium to educate our youngsters about the true history of dancehall. A lot of people they're dancing because they're Jamaicans, but they've not done any serious research about the culture.
Yeah, I can understand that. And I also, maybe looking from a European side on Jamaica, I felt like a lot of pressure came from, from tourists wanting to come and say, what is this step and where does it come from? And Jamaicans had to organize suddenly a culture that was, organically created, and it
Yes,
wasn't structured in a dance a studio. It's an
exactly,
organic route. So
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. Yes.
What you're famous for also running your crew Expressions, but there must have been a period from that you were 7 until you created Expressions dance crew. What happened in
Mhm.
between that led you to actually found your own dance company and your own dance crew?
When I graduated from school, I didn't graduate with the highest honors because at that time you had to be able to afford to pay for some of these exams, and we grew up in a very poor home, and my parents were not able to pay for the highest level, and I went out into the world trying to do odd jobs, and I always found myself back to doing something dance related. I remember going to a school to learn how to design clothes, which is focusing on shirts, and we would use this and use dance to promote these tops that we were trying to make, and we started our first group. This was in the late 80s, early 90s, and we wanted to promote it through dance for people to know that we're dancing in these tops that were made by us. And I got a gig. I think it was in 1995. I got a gig to help and train artists going on stage with movements. So I was there training these people, showing them that movement is always necessary for an artist, so as you don't just stand on the stage and just keep singing, so you move. I did this for a couple of years, but as a young man that didn't have a certain level of formal education, I realized that it was really difficult for you to get a job that would pay you well without having the required paperwork behind your name. And in 1998, I dropped everything that I was doing as a professional or a semi-professional and went back to college to get my degree. So I literally dropped everything at a point where people were starting to know the name Orville, and I went back to college. And when I got into college and I was doing my associate degree, that is where I met Shelley and Stacey Expressions, and we were entering a schools festival, and we were doing really well at the schools festival, and they were so dedicated. At the time it was Shelley, Stacey, a young lady by the name of Amoy, and another young lady by the name of Shireen. So we created a group called Excellence at the time, and because I created the name Excellence while we were in college, I was not able to use that name outside of the college. So because it was now owned by the college, because this was now a college dance group. So I said to them, do me one favor, complete this course with honors and we will take it to the street. And we started winning a number of gold medals. And what I loved about them when I put them on stage, when we were all on stage, it was their expression. It was their facial expression that I loved. That they brought this to the stage, and I was saying, okay, we're going to call ourselves Expressions. We're going to call ourselves Dance Expressions, but we're going to do it a little differently. We're not going to use the E, we're going to just use the X, and we're going to put a Z at the end instead of the S, just for it to have a look. They got their associate degree, they wrote their thesis on dancehall in different areas. One person was focused on the music, what makes dancehall in terms of the sound. Shelley focused on linking dancehall movements to traditional movements, and Stacey focused on the dress of dancehall, what made dancehall dress code. Was it more lean towards the female or was it lean towards the men? So we stepped out into the world, and the world of dancehall, and we were not readily embraced because they were coming out of college, and Jamaica have this thing that when you come out of college with other dance skills, and remember when they went to college they had no other dance skills but dancehall. So while we were there, we started learning things like basic ballet, modern contemporary, folk, jazz, and we started to lend some of these styles to our dancehall styles and saying, okay, we will know how to differentiate when we start doing a merge as opposed to when it's pure 100% dancehall. But dancehall, the dancehall space is so focuses on the inner city part of it so much that we were not readily, we were seen as uptown dancers. That's a term they use for dancers in Jamaica who they think don't come with pure 100% dancehall. So we had to literally fight our way into dancehall for people to respect the name Dance Xpressionz. So it was the same year that, and incidentally, we are talking on the day that Bogle was killed. This is January 20th.
Wow.
Yeah, this is when 2005, this is when Dance Xpressionz started that journey in the streets of dancehall. I mean, we've been active at college, but when we started the journey in the streets of dancehall was 2005, when we did a tribute to Bogle at a school's festival and got the highest honor for the tribute to Bogle after he died. And this was like maybe 10 days after. And we were now, and one of the things that was so difficult for us is because the group was all female. I was out there as the manager and dancer, but they were the ones that I wanted to step out in the street to prove to them where dancehall is coming from. The navel of dancehall, the nucleus of dancehall dance that is, was born on the female body. Because in the 80s, when the men were not able to dance in the middle of a dance floor because of political violence that was happening in the inner cities of Jamaica, the men had to dance against the wall. The women were free to dance in the middle of the dance floor. And when we moved to the 90s, when Bogle became popular, Bogle empowered men to dance in the middle of the dance floor. So men started flooding the dance floor and literally push females out of the dance space. So when we fast forward to the 2000s, women were still trying to struggle to dance in the dancehall space. One of the persons who is a true fighter that stepped out there is Kiva the Diva. Kiva had to be dancing like the men to show that women still have a space in dancehall. Yeah. And then when we stepped out into the space, now we started saying, yes, we want to take up that baton, for the females. The females wanted to show that we have a space in dancehall and we need more female songs. So at this time we had Mad Michelle, we had Dance Xpressionz, we had Latanya's group, we had a number of female dancers who were fighting to be seen in dancehall. And at this time they were now just promoting what was happening with male dancehall, because then there was Bogle, then there was John Hyde, then there was Boise, then there was all of these male dancers coming to the forefront because they now felt empowered, because Bogle told them that, listen, there's a thing in Jamaica that said bad man don't dance, rude boys don't dance. But Bogle changed that kind of thing, so men felt empowered to go forward. So there was an internal struggle that was happening between male and females, and women wanted the freedom to move again. So when songs like Dirty Wine came out, this is when women didn't care what was happening to them physically. If it broke their neck, if it gave them neck injuries, they didn't care. They just wanted to express themselves and step out there and prove that they deserve the space as well. So this is where Dance Xpressionz started to help writing what happened with inner city Jamaica and corporate Jamaica, because we started now curbing, and Latanya's group was also instrumental in that, in creating dancehall that was palatable for corporate Jamaica, because corporate Jamaica did not immediately embrace dancehall because they saw it as ghetto, they saw it as lewd, they saw it as bawdy, they gave it all different names, because they say all happened is that the females were going on top of their heads and whining and gyrating. So we started adding basic choreography. And I say basic choreography because at one point, just before I started traveling, I saw a lot of Europeans doing choreography to dancehall music. And we were saying that's not the principle of dancehall. No. The principle of dancehall was always repetition. We repeated moves over and over. That is how the world caught Bogle dance. That's how people caught higher level. That's how people caught pop your collar. That's how people caught laba laba, zip it up, because we repeated these movements. And we can go way back from that, because most dancers in Jamaica cannot speak about 80s dancehall, which is the base, the foundation of dancehall. Bogle wasn't doing anything new. Bogle was doing what he learned from our traditional folk forms into the 80s dancehall. He just came at a time with a certain level of energy that told people that this is what is ours. So he went back to basic. So that is why that word is so strong when Bogle said, take it back to basic. We are drum and bass people. We dance to that drum and bass that drives the heartbeat. So that's where we move from. So that is how I started looking at making an effort to formalize our dancehall culture, where a lot of people saw it as ghetto music, ghetto dance, like a whole ghetto principle. And I said, no, there has to be a way to formalize this so the rest of the world can have respect for it. And then when I started to see what was happening in Europe, where there was a total disrespect for the creators of the dance moves, and they wanted to take it and do what they felt like with it because they were making money from it. So I started the journey in 2010 when I started talking to persons online about some of the things I saw them doing with dancehall. Yeah, but it was not my intention to travel. My intention was to strengthen dancehall in Jamaica until I got invited to Russia by Jif and what's it called?
Bossman.
Big Up.
Yeah.
By Big Up Production. And when he invited me, I said to him, "Are you sure you want me to come there? Because have you heard me speak?" And he said, "Yes." So I said, "Listen, I don't count words, and I don't care how people feel when I speak. Are you sure?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Okay, as long as you understand that, because a lot of people going to be hurt, a lot of people going to feel some type of way, but I really don't care." So with that said and that understood, then I started the journey. And I've had a lot of mixed things as well, where people misunderstand what I'm saying and people twist things that I'm saying. But again, it's my culture. And this is one thing I tell people all around the world. When it comes down to the preservation of my culture, I have no friends, none.
No, because it's your legacy. Again, we talked about your father, and this is, to keep on the legacy alive. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. No, but I think definitely like there was a huge shift around there, 2010, where the dancehall had become enough popular around the world for Europeans and Asians to start bringing Jamaican teachers and really get to the source. Whereas before that, it was, it was a very confusion around what was raga and what was dancehall, and it was just like a mess.
Right. So you see, let me tell you what was happening. What was happening? You put it the best way. It was a informal cultural expression that people ran into, that we were hurrying to formalize so we could earn from it. Yeah. So when persons were coming to Jamaica, some of the Europeans were preying on the dancers who they knew needed money, and they would pay them literally little and nothing to become teachers. And as a teacher in a formal institution, I know that teaching is also a principle that you have to be a teacher. Yes. So there are certain things that you have to go through. 90% of these guys were not teachers. They could not even teach themselves the steps. They were just moving. So when you started wanting them to break down the movements to you, they couldn't. So what you do is just copy the move that they were doing, and you thought you were doing the same thing. When there is a different musicality in your body altogether, you think you're doing the move, but you're not doing the move. I'm sorry, because you don't understand the socio-political implications of that move. You don't know where in the culture the move is coming from. They don't know where the culture of the move is coming from. They're just dancing. They don't know how much dancehall they're applying to a step. And they start taking things, because if I am still studying dancehall, every single dancer should be studying dancehall. If I'm still studying dancehall, then every one of them should be. Yes, because I'm still learning new things, because dancehall is not isolated. Dancehall is connected. Yeah, dancehall is connected. We are talking about traditional folk form. Then we're talking about mento. Then we're talking about ska, rocksteady, reggae, 80s dancehall, 90s dancehall. All of what is happening today in dancehall is connected to all of what used to be. So it's not an isolated cultural expression. So if you're not willing to go back to what is happening then to see how it shaped what is happening now, then you are doing a major injustice to it. There's so much components of hip hop in the dances that they're doing now, but they are not aware of it. and then they're so ignorant that they don't want to learn anymore, because now I'm making money from Europeans, or I have a European girlfriend, or I have a European manager that I have to please every time I talk. And the fact that they brought me to Europe and put me up and fed me, I feel so obligated to them now. So like it's a warped mindset. And some of it was organized by some of these Europeans, where they knew what they were doing, but for them it was to see how much we can exploit and take and make money from. And I've always been against that. And because of that, I think for some, I was demonized by some people. But again, your cause have to be, for me, your cause have to be greater than you.
Yeah. And I think we see a lot of similarities between other styles. Like hip hop, it was also the same in the beginning as like Europeans or other continents didn't know, because everything was called breakdance, and we didn't know that it was popping, locking, and like different styles,
different styles. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I think that once the community is getting more educated, the people who really wants to know are going back to the real source. And that's why they're collecting money to go to Jamaica and really start learning, because they realize I will never understand Uptown Monday in the songs if I never go to Uptown Monday and see with my own eyes. So I think that this community, like the hip hop as well, are facing mature, like becoming more mature now.
Yes.
And the dancers are not that young anymore that started to go to Jamaica. They're older, so
yes.
But I think it's so amazing to hear you talk about this. And I love your motto that I found online, where you said like, find your purpose and your life will be fruitful. And I think that it goes into what you're saying of like, keep nurturing that information and the knowledge, and your life will continue to be fruitful.
Yes. You're born twice. There's your biological birth and the day that you find your purpose. That's your second birth. That's when you start moving now, because you know why you're here. And you keep moving forward with that purpose, knowing that it's when you truly find your purpose, then you realize that you have to tie other people to this dream that you have, and you have to preserve that legacy so it can be carried on. That's how great empires were built, by passing on legacy.
When you look back at like, being in the dance hall scene back in the 80s, 90s, what would you say is the biggest difference being in the streets dancing from then to now? What is the biggest difference that you have seen over the decades?
80s and 90s. 80s, we needed something in the 80s. 1980 was the bloodiest election in the history of Jamaica. And because of political warfare, segregation in communities, the only place that we could truly enjoy ourselves and release all this tension of poverty and bad vibe was in a party. But going to these dancehall parties, the men especially ran the risk of being targeted, because you are in a political zone that you're not supposed to be. It's like the Bloods and the Crips. You're in a red zone when you're wearing blue. But everything inside of you is telling you to go into this red zone, because the music is going to calm your spirit. So you risk your life to go there, and you would stand in the darkest corner to be unseen by the red side because you're wearing blue. But you want to be there because of what the music did to you, because that is what was happening. We were speaking about issues that we were faced with, and it came out in the music, not just vocally, but it came out in the beats. The beats told us, had its own language. So in the 80s, it was about that. In the 90s, it was now we found a godfather who was now telling us to liberate ourselves through movements, which was Bogle. So Bogle was showing us how to liberate our bodies, and Bogle was able to go to the middle of the dance floor and dance. A lot of us were not that privileged, because Bogle had Rose's crew around him. He had protection. So Bogle had Willie Hogarth and them people around him to protect him when he step out into the street. So when Bogle is dancing, and if he's inviting you in the middle of the dance floor, if he sees you look like a dancer and he walks over to you and pull you out, and that was joy for you. And then the beats that came out of the 90s were, well, they still are the beats that showed where dancehall went on the international level. So when you hear the bada bada, the bodies, the pepper seed, the all fruits ripe, when you hear all of these rhythms that came out, it came out of the voice and the struggle of the people. That is why these are still the baddest rhythms today, the rhythms of the 90s. And if you want to know when you're in a dancehall party anywhere in the world, play the 90s, the late 80s and the 90s. Second, Mr. Cat, because you know you are them something, they play the trailer load, them play anything from Panid, from Capleton. You know that these are potent 90s. So the 90s brought us a certain level of visibility on the international scene, and we started to feel more empowered. So 80s and 90s, that's what it brought for us. 2000 was taking the 90s over into the early 2000s when you have the Elephant Man, them a step forward, and the RDX, them and these people coming out and still carrying on the legacy of what Bogle was doing. And Bogle was still there with us until 2005. And then it all went downhill after Bogle died. We were no longer concerned with playing the rhythms or taking something from the rhythm that existed that made it dancehall. We now had young producers who were now listening to more hip-hop music. And the sad part of it is that, you know, we are first cousins, hip-hop and dancehall. You know, the seed of dancehall gave birth to hip-hop.
Yes, Cool Herc with the sound
Yeah, man.
systems in the back.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, man. So we and then we started deviating because of cultural differences and where we were raised. Hip hop started to write their own story because their struggle was a little different from ours. So this is why the dancehall beats have the like a tum 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 tum. So we were very downbeat and very groovy with our things when hip-hop started to pop their bodies, because it was a different struggle. And instead of trying to find that out and trying to realize that it's the same struggle but it was just the different textures, we started now looking at each other in a way that says you're stealing from me, you're taking my thing, this is not this, that is not that. And if we go back and listen to some of the best merges of hip-hop and dancehall, they were magical music. Romantic Call, Lady Patra, I'm on a romantic call. I thought perfect mix of dancehall and hip-hop, and nobody upstaged anybody. So we started as Jamaicans, and because of lack of certain kind of education and certain kind of people passing down this kind of legacy, we were now entertaining some things in Jamaica that we were not used to before, like the whole thing of satellite dishes picking up things that was happening in America. So we started to become so much more Americanized and copying what was happening there. And remember, this started from in the 80s when we had Beat Street and then Breaking and Electric Boogaloo. And then when we got into the 90s, Bogle said, let's go back to basic with our dance moves. But by the time we got into the 2000s, we started having, it started with You Got Served, and then we had the Step Up series and all of that. So cable was now a prominent thing in Jamaica, and the dancers now were looking to this. So You Think You Can Dance, America's Top Dance Crew, we were now looking to these things, and we were creating movements because the local producers now who were listening to a lot of hip-hop beats started to use a lot of hip-hop overtones to put in the music. But no, you were using more hip-hop and less dancehall, but still calling it dancehall, which is a total disrespect to hip-hop. Because if you put a dancehall DJ on a country and western song, it does not make it a dancehall song. It's just a dancehall DJ on a country and western beat. The beat is what makes the genre. It's the beat. So if we're not still keeping 70% of the beat dancehall, then you cannot call it dancehall. You know, we have to give credit to where the credit is due. So I think the breakdown is the fact that we did not, and I'm talking about my generation as well, and I think I've done it more than anybody else, but every time this argument come up, I put myself in that position to say, we needed to create more forums to educate the younger dancers. Yeah? Instead of alienating them and say, boy, I'm in a really business with them youth then, because them youth there, them just not do the right thing. But they don't know the right thing. There's a saying that came from a movie that says, it's not hard to do the right thing. It's just hard to know what the right thing is. But once you know what the right thing is, it's hard not to do it.
Yeah.
And these are some of the philosophies that I live by.
Yeah. Is this why Dancing Dynamite, the competition, was that kind of founded in order to kind of bring back The
That kind of
dancers.
vibe.
Yeah,
Yes. And this year will be 16 years.
it's amazing.
We were not able to complete it last year because of obviously because of COVID. And I know the producer Jenny is trying to bring it back this year because it did so much for dancers,
Yeah.
and it got a chance. And I was the first person, when the producer will tell you that when she conceptualized the idea of Dancing Dynamite, I was conceptualized with it. I was the first person that she called and said, "This is what I want to do, and I want you to be the chief judge." That's 16 years ago.
Mm.
And we have done so much in terms of empowering dancers. But Europe happened. It's not a disrespect, but Europe happened. The females came here and they literally threw themselves at the dancers, and these dancers were not used to having groupies, and these girls literally threw themselves at them and then promised them all different type of things. Some of them bought tickets for them to go to Europe, and these dancers were no longer interested in learning anything because they now saw themselves as teachers.
Mm.
And when they go into a country and they go on a stage and they have 50 or 100 people standing out there moving to something that they created, then everything else just goes to hell. They don't want to learn. And that's the very point where all of them needed to be learning. So that's one of them things.
Do you see like it's coming back now, as we talked about before, like the community maturing? Because at some point, maybe you cannot go on forever if you don't know your basics. So do you see the new generation coming back or no?
I see some of them that started with me in 2012 when we started going out into the world. I see a number of them maturing now because they've been out there and they realize what we've been saying to them in terms of, listen, we're in a global community. Alliances are going to be formed. Enemies are going to be formed. Relationships are going to be formed. But do not step out of your country, stepping into somebody's country, and your sole purpose is how many white girls I can date and sleep with, and vice versa. Don't come to Jamaica trying to figure out how many of these male dancers I can get to be with so I can learn their styles. It breaks down because it's not a genuine commitment.
It doesn't come from within,
So,
and the true authentic
right.
reasons. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. And because of that, a number of the females that came to Jamaica, they came here for the hype. So they didn't seek out the true foundation of dancehall. They didn't seek them out. Some of them came to Jamaica and they made other dancers tell them, said, "No, I don't do no class with Orville, man. I just be an old school them and they talk about and many of them came to Jamaica and went back. And when I got into their country and they came to me teary-eyed saying, "I'm so sorry when I was in Jamaica, I didn't take a class with you." And I say, yeah, but the truth is something that will never be hidden forever, and I'm not running anybody down to do a class with me. I know what I have. I know that I am maybe the most educated person. And I'm not talking about from formal education. I'm talking about from research here in Jamaica. Because other people use what they have in terms of experience to teach. I've never stopped researching, ever.
I mean, it's funny to see also that Dancing Dynamite kind of correlated, like when Bogle passed away. It's almost the same amount of time. But was it also in the first decade of the 2000s that you started doing commercial gigs for Shaggy, Sean Paul, Beenie Man, Sean Kingston? Was this like also when your career took off as well with that?
This is when, in that decade. I would say it happened the same time that I went to Exed Community College in 1998. That is when the visibility for Orville Xpressionz started, or for Orville Hall, because there was no Xpressionz at that time. For me, because this was the year that Jamaica went to World Cup for the first time, 1998 World Cup. And this is when I choreographed every dance that went into our national stadium for our international game. This is where 35,000 people is sitting in the stadium every time I run out on the field with 15 females behind me. And this is where Bogle was sitting in the stands at the same time, telling his friends that this guy is very good on choreography and I like his style. I met Bogle 3 times formally, just 3. But I met him with a large amount. The same respect I was giving to him as the man of the street is the same respect he was giving me as the commercial dancer, as a dancer that is bringing a bigger population of dancers together, because persons would call Orville Hall to choreograph large groups. And when people wanted choreography, this is who they would call and say, I think you're better at handling large groups where we can put it on a commercial stage and it don't look like it's just coming straight out of the inner city to the stage. So this man I was shocked when he told me the level of respect he had for me.
Wow. What would you say is one of your favorite gigs working for these, international artists and stuff? There must have been a lot of learning moments. Do you have like a favorite gig or a favorite moment?
I think at this point, I think I would still use 1998. I think I'd use those World Cup matches. It was the adrenaline that was pumping through me to not fail in front of 35,000 people. So if it's twice for the month that we would have an international game, I always felt like I wanted to pass out with nervousness, because now you have to go. Before people knew my name, they would say the Ras and the girls then, the Rasta and the girls then, before they knew my name. So for me, it was a national calling, and I needed to prove myself. Outside of that is every time a corporate company calls Dance Xpressionz to do something that they would like us to show dancehall to a group of people who didn't readily like dancehall, it was the same, because I wanted to show people that dancehall must have a place where it originated. And there was a large section of Jamaica that was pushing it aside because they call it, ghetto dance.
Yeah, it was banned from radio. It was a lot of songs. Yeah.
Yeah, because we got to a point in music. We got to a point in music where we were now speaking about what was happening in the inner cities of Jamaica, and we were not coloring it.
No.
Yeah, we were not coloring it. We were just talking about what was happening. So when the Bounty Killer and the Beenie Man them and the Capel and them come out, and we would not hide behind words anymore.
No, exactly. So I can imagine that it was all fine as long as it was just shine, party, and happiness. And then when you start speaking about what's actually happening, that's when they say no.
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 You can't wash your dirty linen in public. But the dirty linen was suffocating us, because you were throwing your dirty linen in our corner as well. So at some point we were going to talk. You know what I mean?
Right now, you're not only a dancer and a choreographer, even if it's a huge job, but you're also an artistic director for the Theatre of Xpressionz. And also this new TV show, The Bartender.
Yes.
What was the vision with start doing directing as well?
All right. When I was at college, I was a double major. I was the first double major at that college for dance and drama. Yes. And I love acting, but directing, like choreography, is my passion, putting it together. And I did some directing in college, and I was saying, I love this, But the calling, what was supposed to put me on the platform, was always going to be dance. So the focus was dance, but the passion for directing was always there. When I directed Othello and A Raisin in the Sun, and these literature books that we were doing in college at the time. So when I stepped out into the world, even though I was doing my dancing and my choreography, persons who knew me would call me to say, I need you to be on the set of this music video that I'm doing as a co-director, So I was doing a little bit of that as well, but, I have no equipment, I have no nothing, and but I'm watching and learning, how the camera thing goes. And so when I got home last year from our tour, myself and Shelly Xpressionz, our Asian tour, that's when we realized that this pandemic thing is here, and it's going to be here. And we started shifting our work online with classes. I said, we have to find a way to start earning money online, and it cannot just be from dance classes, because after a while that might start taking a nosedive as well. So we have a YouTube page, and there is a program called Dancehall Dream that we do here in Jamaica, that we did a television spin-off from that from Dancehall Dream for our local station, RETV, but they had problems problems with getting sponsorship and all of that, and a good program is just sitting there. It was almost like a reality show where the camera crew would follow Dance Xpressionz around to do this reality TV show. And we were here at my house one day, and the guys were, because everybody in my group, they have some comedic skills and some drama skills. Now, Shelly and Stacy, who are my senior members, they also have minors in drama from college. So we have a YouTube station that had 4,500 subscribers, but it was a dormant page, like really dormant. Nobody was, interacting on the page. When we post anything on the page, it's, it cannot be monetized because, it's other people's music. So we were here one day and they were giving some jokes, and I picked up my phone and started recording them without them realizing. And we uploaded that to the page, and wow, people started gravitating to it and saying, this is nice. So I said, let us start putting some of these things on the YouTube page. There were short skits, and we did one was called Dog Name Your Supper, one was called Shop Chronicles, and one was called The Bartender. People loved The Bartender. And I said, okay, let's do like 5 of them. We did 5, people start asking for more. And we uploaded the first one in April, and in June, believe it or not, the YouTube page was monetized in June. So I said, let us take this thing really seriously, the fact that this is YouTube, and we grew our YouTube page from 4,500 subscribers in June
to over 30,000 subscribers.
Hold on, to 14,000 in October.
Oh yeah?
And to 14,700 in October, and then by December we got to 30,000. We took 2 months.
Damn.
And got to 30,000 subscribers. So, and everything is shot and edited on my S9 phone. Everything is shot and edited on my S9 phone.
And you came around the music thing by recording your own songs too.
By recording our own songs, by speaking to my business partner, who is Sil Gordon, who is the producer, one of the producers of the Till Shiloh album, which is Buju Banton's album, who has a catalog of rhythm. Sly and Robbie, the Rhythm Twins, gave us beats to use as well. So, and this is just by the effort, people saying, this brother is using a cell phone to do this. Let us support him. So what I want you to tell your public is that what we're seeking to do now is to add subtitles to this, because we want all of Europe to be able to get a part of the Jamaican experience through these series. Because we have people all around the world who live in the Jamaican diaspora saying, wow, this is a true show of Jamaica through music, dance, and drama.
Yes. And if you can do it by the phone, imagine like if everyone like us can contribute and you can buy better equipment,
and we
don't even know.
Yes.
You don't even know where this can go.
I would produce magic, believe me, because there's so much in me to come out as it relates to putting the culture out there for people to have a certain level of respect and understanding, because I think sometimes people kind of marginalize our culture, because when you speak to some of these dancers or some of these persons who are from Jamaica, they tend to speak mostly about themselves personally rather than speaking holistically about the culture. They don't know how to separate themselves from it. I want to expose the Jamaican culture, and then you can learn about me through what you learned about the Jamaican culture. Because I'm a part of the culture.
Sometimes I talk a lot with my colleagues at Be Fit and Essential about the movie ending, like, where you picture yourself reaching when, what is that movie ending that you dream about? What actions do you take now to reach that dream? And what does it look like for you, for Orville, aka the professor?
All right. One of the first things that have me so humbled is in 2015, I started writing a dancehall course outline, wanting it to be accredited and taught in schools. And in 2020, during the pandemic, it was accredited. 5 years later, fully accredited, and is going to be taught in schools now. So the contract, and this is by the government, the contract is that the government will be paying for 240 students to be trained in my program over a 3-year period.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Wow.
So I'm doing 20 students per cohort. So every 3 months, I will have 20 students graduating that program, and they don't have to find a dollar. The government pays for these 20 dancers, and this is a 3-year contract with the government. So that is phase one of the major dream, because the major dream is to have an institution that teaches everything dancehall, the language, the dance, the music, how dancehall is played, how reggae is played, how patois is spoken. Like, that is the dream. That's the ultimate dream. XPRESSIVE institution of Jamaican culture, because there's a part of this culture that we've not explored, the folk, the traditional folk part, the way that music is played, the significance it has on what we're doing today. That's not touched at all. And I've been meeting some people in that area who are experts that have been hidden and not spoken about.
Yeah.
And these are musicians. These are this is Sly and Robbie. This is bands like Fabulous Five, Joy, Fairclough. There's so many of them that people are not talking about, that Europe needs to know about.
Wow.
You know, so that is the ultimate dream.
You know, this is the first, it's funny, it's the first podcast that my tears are running, because this is, you know, I will share a quick story. Like, when I grew up, my very Swedish father played Bob Marley all the time. So I grew up with hearing this, a very Swedish man, you know, but he saw Bob Marley back in the 70s when he was starting to tour around the world. And for me to come to Jamaica was always a dream of mine, but I found it very hard around 2006, coming from a white village in Sweden, to get information about this culture. So, you know, it's been almost 15 years since then, and hearing you talk about this just makes me so emotional and so proud of where you and other people have taken dancehall, because it was very, you know, very hard to search on information back in the days, and understanding who started what and where is this coming from, and where can we go, and who is the right source, and who has the right knowledge. So when you're saying that, you know, Future Vision being an institution that is gonna help this culture to really, you know, put everything around the world in one place. So I'm so happy to hear that.
Respect.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. I want people to be able to access the information and access the creators. Some of them are no longer with us. Every time I do a tour, I was one of the only person that was helping to look after Laba Laba before he died. A lot of people didn't know that Laba Laba was that sick, you know. So he's one of the architect of dancehall, and he died poor, you know. How do we help these people? How do we keep their legacy alive? There's something we have to do about that. So that is that's my ultimate dream about being able to do that. Incidentally, I can tell you this: the first place I had respect for with how they established dancehall was Sweden, and all my journeys around the world. When I went to Sweden for the first time, and I think Sweden is the least place that I've traveled to, and I've been touring from 2012. I think I've been to Sweden maybe twice or 3 times. But the first time I went to Sweden to see a dance competition, and they went out into the street with the music box and the trucks driving through the street, I was saying, wow.
Yeah.
And they in their dance competitions, they did what they were taught in class. They didn't try to mix it with other things. Whatever a teacher taught them is what they brought to the competition, you know. So I was saying, well, that's commendable. Commendable.
It's also, again, thanks to Nina Miskovsky and Melpo and all these other, you know, early Swedish travelers that went there before it was a trend, before, you know, before smartphones, before you could record everything.
Yes.
With that being said, Orville, you're one of the dancers who's been longest in the game, and I kind of just want to ask you, as like an athlete working with your body, dancehall is a very extreme dance style. It requires a lot of power, and you have to work strongly with your body. How do you keep on, you know, in being an athlete? What do you do to keep injury free? How do you overcome setbacks when it comes to your physical and mental health in order to keep going for a long time?
Okay, I have moments in my life when I go to do strength training. I have a personal trainer I've had for a couple of years now that I just go and I like really shock my body, because at one point I was getting so comfortable with just choreographing that I was not doing anything with my body. So I started doing all of these strength trainings, running up hills and running with tires and rolling tires and doing these things. So I would do like 3 months of that, and then I would cool off and focus on just dancing and movements again. And then I would break. I would do that for another 4 months, and then I would go back to some strength training. And then I'm not all the way there, but in terms of what I consume, I'm now being more aware of what I take into my body, because your food is supposed to be your medicine and your medicine is supposed to be your food. So I'm getting higher on that label. I mean, we have our shortcomings and things that pull us out that we're not supposed to be consuming, but I pay more attention to that. And also, I think we have pretty good genes in my family. Yeah, I think we have pretty good genes, so I have to give thanks for that. But personally, I pay attention to my body, because I know at some point the physicality of dance, I will have to slow it down, but I want to prove to people that age is just a number. And if you really, really want to get it done, and the fact that I am so strong and wanting to be an example physically for people to see, I want people to see how to treat your body, so you can keep showing people physically what a movement is and where they should go with it.
Yeah, because I don't know, in your videos with your son Saskia, who's keeping up with who? Is it Saskia who keeps up with his father, or is it the father that keeps up with the son?
I have to keep up with him. Yeah, he's also an inspiration,
Yeah, man. All right. And also, when it comes to the mental diet, it's also very important, like what you put in to keep yourself focused and not distracted. Do you have any tips for other dancers about the mental discipline?
Dancers, find time to meditate. Find 10 or 15 minutes of every day to put your phone down, no social media, no internet, and truly meditate. And also, even the things that you take in on social media, you have to be aware of what you're taking in, because some of it is poison. It's poison to your system. It's things to have you living in fear. It's things that will break your whole consciousness. So you have to be aware of what you watch. You have to be aware of the circle that you're in. There's a passage called Desiderata that says, "Go placidly amid the noise and haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible without surrender, be on good terms with all persons." It also says, "Speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others, even the dull and ignorant. They too have their story."
Wow.
So these are some of the things that you have to always remember, that even what you consider to be truth is relative. Your truth might not be my truth. And if we're going to have a conversation, that is exactly what we have to seek to do, have a conversation, and not you trying to push anything on me, because I will start resenting the way you approach it, because you're going to say it's the truth and no. So it's, how do we start a conversation so you can understand where I'm coming from and I can do the same with you? And then it is okay to agree to disagree, because ultimately this is what you feel, and I have to be able to respect that. So meditation has helped me greatly, truly just locking off everything for a part of the day and getting into it, because even though I'm telling people that they have to be careful what they take in from social media, I basically have to almost take in everything, because I write and direct. So the fact that I write and direct, I have to see what's coming from where, but I still have to have a filter system in my consciousness to know what to push aside and say, okay, I can use this to send a message. I can use this for people to understand more about dancehall. I can use this for people to understand the power of traveling and knowing more about things, because travel has helped me so much to come and tell my people here in Jamaica why it would be nice for everybody to travel and not think that everything is a bed of roses when you leave here. So meditation is very important. Meditation helps you to find out who you are, so you can know who to bring into your circle. because the first person you need to truly know is you, so that you don't keep pointing the finger at other people saying they're the problem when maybe you're the problem. And I believe in the law of attraction. You attract to you who you are.
The professor has spoken, people. Listen and
Respect.
learn. Listen and learn. All right. In the end of my interviews, I always do something called fill in the gaps. Basically, I start a sentence and you, whatever you think, you answer with one word or the end of a sentence. Very short. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So the first one would be if Orville, aka the professor, would learn one new skill tomorrow, what would it be?
To sing.
To sing. Love
Yes.
it. If there was one thing that everyone in the world should try, it would be.
One thing. The first thing that comes to my mind is bungee jumping.
Have you done it?
No, because I'm so afraid of it. But Shelley would love to do bungee jumping. So
well, this is
to
a
get
new
over my
year.
fear.
You know,
Yeah.
this is a new year of challenges. So why
Yes,
not also throw in bungee jump?
and I'm afraid of heights. I travel a lot around the world. I'm afraid of heights. So I think I like trying to get over fears.
Yes. And because of that, I want to say, what is one fear that the professor has overcome already?
The fear of needles.
Fear of needles.
Yes, I hate needles, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4 tattoos.
Overcoming that fear. Overcome.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you so much. This has been a legendary, transformational conversation. And I can just thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking your precious time to, educate me and the people out there. In the end of my interviews, I always leave the mic to my guest. Where can we find you? What projects should we look out for? And is there anyone you want to love bomb out in the world?
I just want to show love to all my European friends, all my Asian friends, all my South American friends, all the persons who have shown love to the Xpressionz brand. We always tell people that we are always about edutainment. It's not just entertainment, but edutainment. And we will get through this together. I would like to say to all the dancers who have asked me this question, how do I become a better dancer? I say to you, become a better person. Don't fight to become a better dancer. Just become a better person. Everything else will be good after that.
That's amazing. And if we want to follow your journey, you talked about the YouTube channel.
Yes, the YouTube
what social
channel,
medias do you have?
So the YouTube channel is Xpressionz JA, and it's spelled XPRESSIONZ JA on YouTube. I am on Instagram, and I am Orville Xpressionz. Xpressionz spelled the same way. And I am also on TikTok as Villa X, VILLAX, or Hall Orville, my name backwards, Hall Orville, at hallorville46@gmail.com. So look for me on all these different platforms, especially Xpressionz JA, so and watch the bartender. I know there's going to be a language barrier, but guys, we're trying to fix that so you can get an English version of it.
All we have is time, so we better learn some patois in this quarantine anyway.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Orville. Thank you again for your time. And I can just wish you a blessed day. And I can't wait to see you in the projects that Expression Dance Crew is doing 2021.
Thank you very much. And look out the Expressive Moves course outline. I am also trying to formalize it so I can extend it online to all my foreigners.
Super. We will link everything in the description below, and you're having a blessed day out in Kingston, Jamaica.
Thank you very much. Blessed love. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Don't forget to click subscribe, comment below, and give us a rating or review. We have a Facebook page, YouTube page, and we are on Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and all the other podcast platforms. We also have an Instagram, so don't forget to tag us in your favorite episode and share it with the world, because we read all of it.